I think so. It just popped up on my phone.
Good.
Good afternoon, everyone. The hour being 5:30 on Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. I will now call the Public Works and Service Committee meeting to order. Mr. Bridgelock, may we have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alder Jones,
Present.
Alder Jarrett,
Present.
Alder Davis,
Present.
Alder Perez, excuse, Alder Kelly.
Present.
Thank you. First item on our agenda this afternoon is the approval of the minutes from August 29th, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to approve the minutes from August 29th, 2023. Any corrections? Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. The first item on our agenda this afternoon is item 0876-23. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the City Outreach Specialist, requested to close Fifth Street between Lake Avenue and Festival Park Drive on Saturday, October 21st, 2023, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for the City of Racine Demi Semi Centennial 175th Birthday Bash. Recommendation to approve and all costs be waived. This afternoon, we have Mrs. Renegas to speak on this item.
Good afternoon. I'm the City of Racine's Outreach Specialist, Krista Venegas. I'm just here and request that we have Fifth Avenue or Lake Avenue closed from Fifth Street to Lake or Festival Park Drive on the 21st in celebration and recognition of the city's 175th birthday, in addition to annual bounce back events, which we have as community resource fairs. We're requesting the street closure so that food vendors and food trucks can draw an attraction between not only the City of Racine's two events that are happening downtown that day, but Downtown Racine Corporation's trick-or-treating event as well.
Any questions from committee members? Seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Alder Kelly, second was that Alder Jarrett. Jarrett,
Ma'am.
0876-23. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is 0874-23. Communication sponsored by Alder Jones on behalf of Jeff Sturban, Walden 3 Middle High School Directing Principal, requesting to close off the south sidewalk of Rupel Boulevard from Chicago Street West to the cemetery during the 2023-2024 winter season. Staff recommendation that Racine Unified School District is granted permission to close off the sidewalk of Rupert Boulevard from Chicago Street West to the cemetery from December 1st, 2023 to April 1st, 2024, with the requirements that Racine Unified School District holds the City of Racine harmless from any and all injuries caused by conditions of the sidewalk related to this closure. Physical note, there will be no cost to the City of Racine. Mr. Richloff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an annual request by Racine Unified. This body has seen fit to approve this in years past. From a staff perspective, we have no issue with the closure of that sidewalk, and I believe it's a pragmatic approach by the principal at the school there. So we recommend that this item be approved.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members?
Yes, so, Mr. Pritzlaff, I'm just, because I just looking at the letter. So basically, they've done this in the past more of like, a safety issue because they can't keep that sidewalk, cleared.
That's correct. They have a hard time maintaining it because of the hill. It collects snow and ice, and they've had trouble over the years maintaining it or keeping up with it. They might be able to handle one or two events, but over time, it still gets snow and ice on it, accumulating and results in some dangerous conditions for any pedestrians out there. So that's the reason we've approved this in the past.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, I will move to approve item 0874-23.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor? I don't think they heard me.
You get Davis on the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, the motion passes. Our next item is 0888-23, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Commission of Public Works, submitting a professional services agreement between the City of Racine and AECom. Recommendations that the Public Works and Service Committee approve the professional service agreement and direct the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement between the City of Racine and AECom for the design of a dry retention facility near the Great Northern Corporation. Physical note, funding will be available in the 2024 CIP. Mr. Rooney, Commissioner Rooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. I'll read you the memo for the professional services agreement. And then I do have some slides on a PowerPoint that will be put together for some of the stakeholders over there to give you some context for what this is about. So for the actual item itself, AECom shall provide a dry detention basin design per the Mount Pleasant Street study report that was submitted to my department dated August 1st, 2023 for alternative C. It's a design for a 10-year, 24-hour storm event. The services include preparing a preliminary layout with cross sections of the dry retention within the footprint of the stream channel located in the wooded area owned by that field adjacent to SC Johnson Hangar and the GNC parking lot. This contract is actually an amendment. It includes adding tasks for associated services to achieve and provide relief from a 10-year, 24-hour storm event upstream of the city storm sewer collection system at the north terminus of Mount Pleasant Street, north of South Street. These services include including the amendment are dry retention basin design, phase 1 ESA, that's an environmental evaluation, geotechnical evaluation, construction and contract documents for bidding, construction management services, and various meetings that we'll need to have. The total cost of the amendment is $88,900, and funding for the work will be appropriated in the 2024 to 2033 Stormwater Utility Capital Improvement Program. If the committee agrees, the appropriate action would be to authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into the agreement. I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you to kind of give you an idea of what we're talking about. Let me know when it's ready to go, Ron. Okay. And are you done with that mouse?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, take over. Let me have that mouse. I don't know if this one might work.
I see all the comments, but I don't see the other two hours are they able to see.
Can you see the slides on the screen here?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this was a PowerPoint presentation we did after we had completed a study, and we met with the stakeholders over there in the area where Great Northern Corporation is. Their company exists at the northeast corner of Mount Pleasant and South Street. They had a lot of flooding back in September, a year ago at this time. Basically to this date, when we had some pretty significant rain events. They also had some flooding of their property in 2020 as well. There were less significant storms. We found that there were some obstructions in the sewer line that really created some of those issues. But the issues that they had related to the storm of 2023, again, caused significant damage to their equipment, to their product. I think they had suffered over $1 million in losses. So after discussing some of the issues with Great Northern Corporation, the mayor and city administrator, AECOM did a study of that area, and these are the results of that. So on the second slide, you'll see back, like I said, in July of 2020, May of 2020, they did have some issues over there, but they were not as significant as what happened a year ago at this time. Those storm events, we mapped those out based on some rainfall gauge data in the area, really showed storm events less than the 10-year event, which is what our system is designed to accommodate. So a municipal storm sewer system is generally designed for the 10-year recurrence interval storm. And so in essence, what that means is, you know, a storm you could expect to see once every 10 years. And then the amount of rainfall accumulation is over a 24-hour period. So if you look at the September 11th, when that rainfall fell last year, you can see based on the depth of the rainfall in inches over that duration of that storm, which, you know, anywhere, you know, ran from, 15 to, 20 hours, based on, we have 6 rainfall gauges throughout the city. They all showed storm events quite larger than what the city's collection system has capacity to handle. So some of the storms and the data that we collected from the storms, indicated this was an event, maybe on the 40 to over 100-year range. So AECOM, we commissioned them to do a study. They're on call. They're our stormwater consulting engineers. They looked at this entire drainage shed over here that essentially feeds in to this area where I'm pointing on the cursor. Great Northern is right there. It's that big white building, and our collection system kind of terminates up here. It collects water in this drainage shed over here, and eventually brings it down and puts it in the retention basin that we have just north of Laird Avenue and west of the railroad tracks. So we had them analyze it. They basically looked at the various land uses. Based on the land uses, we can determine, and topography, we can determine what type of runoff characteristics that it's going to have, and we can model it for various storm events. These are some of the significant areas over there. Again, here's the Young Court Detention Pond over here. Again, it's just north of Laird Avenue, just west of the tracks. GNC shown in yellow. S.E. Johnson Hangar is shown in orange. This is where the proposed youth correctional facility is going in by Racine County. We did model that in its completed condition as we make sure we got the runoff calculations correct. So essentially what you see here is this is kind of significant areas in here. A lot of the water that comes through this comes into Caledonia, goes through the Sundance Channel, goes into a collection system, a private collection system owned and maintained by the airport. It helps, obviously drain the runways and the taxiways. Then it makes its way over into a drainage easement that eventually comes into the city's north terminus of their collection system right in this area. Moving this along here. Again, we kind of hatched out the various drainage basins that are in here, applied those drainage basins to that type of land characteristic with the topography and how much impervious area or how much grass area, did all those calculations. It's a pretty significant drainage area. I mean, when you cumulatively add up all these locations that get out to Young Court, we're talking nearly 650 acres of land flow through this area and eventually get to Young Court. So we wound up modeling that. We modeled that runoff coming through the airport property. And we model it for a 10-year, a 25-year, and a 100-year, 24-hour event. So just to give you an idea, when we did the modeling, what this kind of looks like. So this is kind of a snapshot in close. Again, here's GNC, here's the SC Johnson hangar. Here's one of the airport runways. That's runway 0422, and there's a parallel taxiway to it. When we modeled a 10-year, 24-hour event, which is about 3.7 inches over that time period, this is the kind of flooding that we would expect to see in the model. So these are, basically heat diagrams, if you will, shows you where the flooding occurs and to what depth. This is all modeled through software based on the topography that's out there, based on our collection system, what it takes. So as you can see, in this area of their building here, there is flooding that occurs in that 10-year event. It comes out in the street and obviously gets fairly deep. It goes through some of their loading docks. That's where they've, had some of the water that came in the building and caused quite a bit of the damage. So we looked at several storm events to see what was going on there. We then ran it through a 25-year, 24-hour, that's about 4.5 inches of water over that 24-hour period. Again, you see how the flooding occurs, and this is where it kind of hits this bottleneck here and creates some of this flooding that occurs in that area. It also shows how water backs up in the Sundance Channel. It's meant to do that. Water backs up between the runway and the taxiway. It's meant to do that. Clearly, the runway's, unimpacted, so if a plane had to land in the storm, it certainly can do that. It's not flooded. We ran then the 100-year event through there. That's about 5.8 inches. And you can see the problem obviously gets worse and worse. Now, we're not obligated to design anything greater than that 10-year event, but we wanted to model it to show you what was going on in those various events. So let me move along here real quickly. So what we did is we looked at a couple different alternatives, and we were trying to see what we could do to try to mitigate this during the 10-year event. This line that comes out of the north terminus and into this drainage ditch is a 36-inch. So we looked at doing various things. We modeled it if we had put a 48-inch diameter pipe in here to take the water in, and that is the same size piping that comes down Mount Pleasant Street here and eventually makes its way over to South Street, where the pipe sizes increase progressively to take on more drainage areas. It didn't really help any of the situation. You can see even in the modeling, we're still getting some of that flooding on the right here. We looked at another alternative where we could upsize again that pipe that receives that water from that drainage ditch and upsize that pipe as well, different sizes all the way down to South Street. Let me go back 1 second. This alternative costs about $86,000. I forgot to mention that. This alternative is much more expensive. It exceeds over $1 million. Even with this upsizing here, it reduced some of the flooding around GNC, but then reduced to the level that would keep them from getting water in their facility. Again, this is for a 10-year, 24-hour event. We looked at then another alternative C was to what if we expanded this ditch, if you will, that is in here and created a retention facility, essentially an area where the stormwater can back up and fill up. It would be a dry basin, and what that would do in that 10-year event. So essentially what this model does, and I'll show you on the next slide, is essentially we kind of dig out a dry pond here. This is kind of like the contours of that proposed pond, the shape of it more or less. We then put in a pipe at the bottom of that. That drains flow out normally. It goes through essentially a weir that we would build over the top of the pipe. And then it drains down. We regrade this ditch, clean it out. It would go into our existing collection system. Okay. What happens when it starts to back up, then it fills up the dry pond, then it dumps over the weir, and then it goes right back in the same collection system. So this pipe that we put in here is forcing it to back up. So in that scenario there, that cost was about $350,000 to provide that. When we ran that through the model, it essentially dries up this area in a 10-year event. So it looks like it's achieving what we wanted to do. Simply doing changes to the piping system didn't do it. These are for a whole host of hydraulic reasons. I'm not going to get into all the detail of fluid mechanics and all the hydroscience of collection systems. So that was option C. This is about just under 2 acres of storage here that can be provided. So that's where we kind of arrived at. We did look at different scenarios, like could we over-engineer this to provide a greater level of protection? So, this was for a 25-year event. This is how large we would have to create the dry retention area. Even when we modeled it, they still get some flooding in this area north of GNC. It's quite expansive. It really starts to encroach onto SCJ's property. This is their hangar, the corporate hangar here. This property here is actually owned by GNC. This property north of this ditch is owned by SCJ. So that was a little bit intrusive. Again, that project was still north of $1 million, roughly. So then we looked at, what about we just try to maximize what we can get in this area here? So it would be something that would handle the 10-year, 24-hour event, which we're obligated to provide for, but it provides some level of protection above that. So it's less than the 25-year, but it's greater than the 10-year event. So we can put storage in there. We did that again, modeled it again, didn't have any significant issues with flooding over there in that scenario. Again, but this is running a 10-year event through there. It may accumulate, and say we get a 15-year event storm in here. It still may do the trick, but once we get to a certain level, it will start to come out in this location. However, again, let me emphasize, we're only required to design for the 10-year, 24-hour event. This scenario costs about $580,000 because the grading's a little bit more significant. So this would be the size of alternative D. That's for a large 25-year event here. We looked at that in more detail. Again, we even modeled a 100-year storm through here and tried to maximize that pond area in here. And when we ran that through there, it still floods. A 100-year event, nothing is designed for that. So that obviously is not a logical choice, nor is the 25-year event that we model, because it still floods there as well. So we try to look at maybe maximizing the size of that, and that gets us to a dry pond that would cost about $580,000 to design and build in that area. This would be for that 100-year event. Again, it doesn't solve the flooding problems. It gets to be very large. It really starts to encroach on SCJ's property. You can see this dark line in here kind of is the property line that you can see right in here. SC Johnson has no issues when it comes to flooding in this area, generally because their property is built quite high related to the surrounding topography, where GNC's is actually built quite low. So they're willing to, work with the city and GNC, but they don't want an overly excessive grading project affecting their property, which we understand. So that being said, we zeroed in we zeroed in on a pond design that was, again, greater than 10-year, less than 25, maximizing it, but trying to keep as much of it to the south and to the west as possible as the least impact SCJ's property. So the footprint for that winds up being, let me see here, more in this area. We keep it kind of as far south as we can, as like I said, as to not encroach on private property to the south and keep it off SCJ's property. So what we did, in the meantime, while this study was going on, we had some recommendations. We changed out that head wall that was on that 36-inch that water comes through that ditch on, put a better trash rack on it to keep it from getting clogged. We've had rain events this summer. It's done a fantastic job, so that has helped. We've also discovered that here is the SCJ property, here is the GNC property. This was once a parent track here. It was divided by a certified survey map, and this part here was then deeded over to Great Northern Corporation, and that's where they kind of have some of their trailers that they store, if you saw them from the aerial photography. And then what was developed on that dividing line was an easement, which we found in this document here, that says, hey, this is a drainage easement. This is a ditch between these two properties. It should always be a drainage ditch. It's a permanent, non-exclusive easement, which basically means it should always remain there in perpetuity. It needs to be there to drain that water that comes through, but it can be assigned to someone else in the future. And we did some other digging around. We found an old Webco easement that went through that was abandoned. So essentially what we came down to is, in our preliminary findings, was let's try to figure out a way to maximize alternative C, which addresses the 10-year, 24-hour event with, with additional storage, but it's less than the 25-year event. In alternative C, we require interest in the property owned by GNC and SCJ. Brian from the city attorney's office is here. He'll be talking about this on the next agenda item. We would acquire that land in permanent easement. The city would for that new dry retention pond and this new drainage facility. We probably wind up transferring that 40-foot wide, non-exclusive permanent easement to the city. Right now, the way it's written is SCJ is the first party, and the second party is RCAC, which used to be Racine Commercial Airport Corporation, now Patton Field. Ultimately, the city would maintain this newly created dry retention area, the low flow pipe, the weir, and the channel. The design, again, would provide that level of production above the 10-year, but below the 24-year. Since neither GNC or SCJ or even Patton Field would maintain this, none of these private properties would receive any stormwater utility credits. If they had a facility on their own property, that would reduce their annual stormwater fees. None of them are interested in doing that. So no one would get any credits. They'd still pay their regular rate, the city of Racine stormwater fees, but we would wind up maintaining it as a regional facility, and that would be part of our stormwater utility budget moving forward. So some of our next steps was, we believe, alternate C. The maximum one is the design that we'd like to mitigate some of the problems over there. Obviously, we need to prepare estimates for that. We have provided some estimates for this. They are in the 2024 CIP as well for construction. We've got the procured detention, design, and survey services. That's what's before you on this agenda item tonight, along with services for topography, some title searches, legal descriptions of new and perhaps temporary easements that we may need to require. And then, that property acquisition for these permanent easements would have to be executed by the city attorney. Again, Brian is here to speak on that next. And then Department of Public Works, if this item is approved for the design work to AECOM, once those plans and specs are prepared, Ron and I will get that advertised for bidding later this year. Hopefully open up those bids in early 2024, and we could begin construction on this in early next spring, complete next year as well. And then again, like I said, we would assume maintenance on this in perpetuity. And that's it. So that is kind of like the slides that we used when we met with Batten Field, SCJ, and GMC. Those are the slides I wanted to share with you, so you have some context as to what this professional service agreement is for. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have. If you have any questions about real estate, I'd ask that maybe you just hold those until Brian from the city attorney's office talks about that on the next slide.
Thank you.
I have a question. Are we open for questions now, Mr. Commissioner Pritzlaff? Sorry, Commissioner Rooney.
Pardon?
Can we ask questions now? From just, I
Yeah,
just need some stuff.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So I was just jotting down a couple of stuff there. So AECom, they're the one that did basically the report. So they're the one that went out there and did the survey and stuff and completed this report, as well as their opinion of the cost of the drainage of this project.
So was the question, did AECom provide the estimates?
Did AECom provide the estimate, or was that something done by your office?
No, AECom did. So when we had them do the study of this entire drainage basin and then run the various different storm events through it and come up with alternatives, they also came up with costs, opinions of probable costs for the various alternatives. So they did the estimates. That is correct.
Okay, and so then the next step, then I'm just trying to wrap my mind, because that's a lot of information, a lot, and I might ask for that spread, that PowerPoint later on, just to kind of look through it on my own. But thank you. So next steps then is for AECom. They will be designing according to whichever option we choose. They will be designing the dry retention facility.
Correct.
Is that correct?
They would design the stormwater retention facility and prepare construction plans and specifications for how that is to be done.
Okay, and then the third step will be, then it will be sent out to bid to different contractors.
Correct. It would be advertised by Public Works. It would be led as a city project. They are going to provide construction management services for it, though, to build this. That's part of their, it's in their proposal as well. They provide the construction management once the project is underway on site. But we'll handle, obviously, the contract payments just like we do for any other public works contracts.
Okay, and then my last question, sorry, I didn't want to take over if although Kelly and Davis had any, but the drainage easement, can you give me a little bit, from my understanding of easement, is like if a property, like the city needs to get on the property, or a right of way, like if folks need to cross like a property downtown to go to the lake, and so you could have an easement. What is a drainage easement?
Well, an easement is basically what you described. So an easement essentially is essentially mapping out an area on a parcel of property that someone else has interest in. They don't own it in fee. It's, they don't, the person who has it, they don't pay taxes on it or anything like that. The easement generally, and there are a variety of easements, they create conditions on that area that's mapped out. So in this case, it would be a drainage easement that we would map out and say, hey, this easement is going to be for the purpose of a stormwater retention facility. We're not going to allow anybody to build on it. We're not going to allow anybody to alter it. Yeah, we know it's your property, that SCJ is going to maybe be built on a little bit. We know that it's GNC's property that's going to be built on a little bit. But when this document is finalized by the city attorney's office and gets recorded at the Register of Deeds, it's going to have those types of conditions on it. A, what is the easement for? B, who has rights to that land? And that's described in the easement. It'll be the city of Racine. So we can have somebody go in there and keep the dry retention area in a good condition and make sure everything functions properly. It'll also state, hey, you can't build anything in this easement. It's not allowed. We can't have you interrupt the drainage patterns. So it basically creates conditions on that as well. We may even need to have some temporary easements on it for like access for whoever the contractor is that builds this. So we may require some temporary easements to be drafted to say, hey, when we put the construction plans together and the specifications, it'll say, hey, contractor bidding on this project, you will access the site at this location.
You'll have temporary rights to bring your equipment, your personnel, your materials in there. This will be the area that you'll be able to disturb. It may be greater than the final product. That's a temporary limited easement. That goes away when the project's completed. What's left will be a permanent easement that will essentially encompass the new facility that we build there. So I believe GNC and both SCJ, because they want to be cooperative with the city, they want to solve these drainage problems. SCJ wants to be a good corporate neighbor to GNC. They're not, most times you require interest in lands, whether it's temporary limited easements or permanent easements, you're paying for that. There is a monetary exchange for rights in someone's property. Both GNC and SCJ have indicated that this is a collaborative, cooperative project, and they are gonna not ask for any monetary compensation for these easements, which we think is great, and that's the way a good partnership should work. So the easements, will be drafted. We won't have those final easements for you tonight, Brian can talk about on the next item, until we actually get the actual dimensions of the pond, design and what will be there permanently and what temporary access points we need for the construction of it. We won't have what those easements are until we're somewhere down the road of design. We'll be back to this committee at that point in time with the city attorney's office saying, hey, these are the easements that we need now to record, on a temporary basis and on a permanent basis. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Mr. Pritchard, can you get the other two up so we can see if they have their names up?
Well, now we're gonna bring the general screen up. We can take the PowerPoint down, I guess, if that's what we have to do. Yeah.
Alden Davis.
Yes, I have a question. So I hear discussion on, part of it is, once we get to a part, putting out a bid for contractors can bid. But how do we come about coming to AECom being the professional service group to provide you all the estimates? Was there any, did they put in a bid, or like, how were they selected?
So if you remember from the item we had at the last Public Works and Services Committee meeting, we took an item to this committee, and this committee and Common Council approved it. And we hired AECom for on-call services. So they're there to assist us for the stormwater utility and for the sanitary sewer maintenance fund. So when things like this arise, we kind of have it as like a master contract to do investigations, which is what we use the monies for, to have them look into this. But now this is a unique capital project, so this has got to get in this, obviously actual specialized design for this. So that's how we procured their services, Oliver Davis. They're on a master contract with us. They've been our stormwater utility consultant since we implemented the stormwater utility in 2005. They actually helped us write the original ordinance language in Chapter 98 for it. They helped us create the fee structure. They helped us create everything, and they provide assistance to us with still to this day.
All right, thank you.
Alden Kelly.
I would like a copy of the slideshow as well, if you don't mind, when you send that out to Alder Jarrett. I'd like a copy as well.
So we'll send it to all the committee members, and Ron will be at the next Common Council meeting. I won't be at that one. And we may even send it to the entire Common Council, so if they have it as well, if they have questions. So we'll get it to all the members of this committee tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
The motion and second to approve item 0888-23. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Our next item is 0882-23. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Brian Ben. Assistant City Attorney, that the city be authorized to acquire from the Racine Commercial Airport the existing drainage easement near Batten Field and the SC Johnson Hangar. Further, that the city be authorized to acquire from Great Northern Corporation and SC Johnson easements in the same area for the construction and maintenance of a new regional stormwater dry retention pond. Recommendations that the city be authorized to acquire from the Racine Commercial Airport the existing drainage easement located near Batten Field along the property line of 3400 Mount Pleasant Street and 3454 Mount Pleasant Street, property owned by Great Northern Corporation and SC Johnson's respectively. Further, that the city be authorized to acquire from GNC and SC Johnson a temporary construction easement in the same area for the construction of a new regional stormwater dry retention pond, and also acquire a permanent non-exclusive easement for the maintenance of the same. It is also requested that the city attorney's office be authorized to draft the appropriate agreements and negotiate the acquisitions of the above easement. Physical note, the cost to obtain the above easements would be only the fees to record the agreements with the Registry of Deeds, $30 per document. Commissioner Rooney.
Madam Chair, thank you. Again, Brian is here to answer any questions. This is basically the authorization by this committee for his office to proceed with securing interest in the real estate there to do this project.
Yes, that way our audience that's tuning in via Facebook can see you.
All right. Good evening. I'm Assistant City Attorney Brian Van Skyndel. Commissioner Rooney very ably, in great detail, explained what we're doing here. In short, there is an existing easement that is contained within the area where we want to put this dry retention pond. So the first step is we need to acquire that easement. Once we have that, we can then draft and negotiate a permanent easement for where the dry retention pond will be, and also acquire the necessary temporary easements for the construction of said retention pond. GNC and SC Johnson are cooperating with this procedure. I do have to make contact with Racine Commercial Airport to acquire the other easement, but we did not want to begin that negotiation and that acquisition, of course, until we had approval of this body. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this process and what it entails.
Thank you. Alden Kelly, your hand is raised still?
No, it's not.
Okay.
That must be the current, is that the current, sorry?
Alden Jarrett.
Yes. Sorry, I know I'm all on easements tonight. So we're acquiring a temporary easement, and then we're going to negotiate for a permanent easement. And this might be happen way after I'm going. As far as, because you're the attorney, when you say permanent easement, is that 100 years till the end of time? I'm just kind of how do two different people who have interest in a property say yeah, you can have access to this property forever? Are there instances where the city might have to go back 20 years from now and renegotiate these permanent easements?
A permanent easement is exactly what it sounds like. It's a permanent easement. It does not, there's always ways things can be terminated, but that would be if we, for example, no longer needed it, or something happened there which made it irrelevant and we'd have to go through that process. But it is a permanent easement. It runs with the land, so it will exist no matter who owns that property. Whoever gets that property down the road, if GNC or SC Johnson were to sell it or give it to another property, that would carry over to the new owner. So it is permanent until the end of time, until the parties who have the interest in the easement agree to get rid of it. So it's
Interesting.
not like- Whereas Commissioner Rooney stated, a temporary easement is just there until the project's completed and then it ceases to exist.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve?
Second,
It has been motioned by Alder Kelly, second by Alder Jarrett to approve item 0882-23. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is 0875-23. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Nick Dembski, interim executive director, Racine Public Library, submitting change order number 4 to contract 202036 Racine Public Library interior renovations, Roche Construction and Engineering Inc. contractor. Recommendation that change order number 4 to contract 202036 Racine Public Library interior renovations, Roche Construction and Engineering Inc. be approved in the amount of $12,582.79. Physical note funding for this change order is available in Art Object 20710 57200 building improvements. I believe we were supposed to have Mr. Dembski here. So Mr. Britloff, would you care to speak on this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, change order number 4 as put forth by interim director Dembski over at the Racine Public Library in the amount of $12,582.79. I can talk to the basics of this particular change order request. I may not be able to answer specific questions. So I'll go ahead and give it a college try here. Largely what this change order is doing is at the end of a project, we did a walkthrough with our building personnel and their architect and their contractor. We found several deficiencies, some things that were missed along the way, largely having to do with the building automation system. So during the course of construction, the contractor either was not aware or deliberately cut through important wires, important communication lines that allow us here at in the building maintenance and facilities to control airflow, control temperature, all those things. So if you look at the documents here, they're talking about VAVs, which are our valves, which again we can control, which we control, within the automation system itself. And there's some other issues with the automation controls within the library. That's the extent to which that I can explain what the library has gone through with this change order. If you have specific questions for Mr. Dembski, we can always defer the item to another meeting. But that's my knowledge as far as change order number 4 for this item goes.
Thank you, Mr. Britloff. Any questions from committee members? Alder Kelly.
I was looking over the paperwork and I believe it said something in reference to them having to possibly replace a stuck valve. So would that have to be on a separate change order?
So that would be part of this change order.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
That was it?
Any questions from committee members? Any further questions, rather? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's motion by Alder Jarrett, second by Alder Davis to approve item 0875-23. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Our next item is 0884-23, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the city engineer, submitting change order number 1 to contract 202-3052, concrete pavement rehabilitation, Beardsley Concrete LLC contractor. Recommendation that the change order number 1 to contract 202-3052 be approved in the deduct amount of $13,339.70. Physical note funding for this change order is credited in the following art objects: DPW paving and storm sewers. Mr. Molitor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As stated, we are submitting this change order, which is a rectifying change order to close out the project of the contract 2023052, the concrete pavement rehabilitation, which basically was the joint repair and slab replacement on Erie Street, north of South Street. The original contract was approved in the amount of $140,787 even on the resolution 0313-23 of April 17th of this year. This change order brings the contract total down to $127,447.30. Basically, this is just a reduction in some quantities that were not necessary during construction. If the committee committee agrees, we recommend approval of this change.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve?
Second.
It is motion by Alder Kelly, second by, is that Davis or Jarrett?
Alder Jarrett.
Alder Jarrett, to approve item 0884-23. Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion passes. Our next item is 0885-23, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of Department of Public Works, submitting final payment for contract 202-3052, concrete pavement rehabilitation, Beardsley Concrete LLC contractor. Recommendation that the work completed be accepted and final payment authorized for a total contract amount of $127,447.30. Final payment to include retainage. Physical note, contract 202-3052 was authorized under resolution number 0313-23 dated April 17th, 2023. Mr. Molitor, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is basically the same item, only it's the final payment. Work was completed on the concrete pavement rehab, and now they're requesting their final payment. We just reduced the contract amount to $127,447.30. If the committee agrees, we recommend approval of this final payment.
Questions from committee members? The motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second?
It's motion and second to approve item 0885-23. Seeing no questions, comments, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Our next item is 0887-23. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Department of Public Works to submit final payment for contract 2022070 2022 sidewalk replacement, Riser of Racine LLC contractor. Staff recommendation that the work completed by Riser be accepted and final payment authorized for a total contract amount $431,038.27. Final payment to include retainage. Fiscal note, contract 202-2070 was authorized under resolution number 0440-22 dated July 12th of 2022. Mr. Mullender.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As stated, the work on the contract 2022-070, 22 sidewalk replacements has been completed by the contractor Raza, and they're requesting final payment. Last committee meeting, we approved the rectifying change order. They just didn't have their Racine Works paperwork in order. So that's why the final payment is coming on this meeting. Basically the contract was approved in the amount of $394,458.03. This contract was increased by $23,472.50. And again, with the rectifying change order number 2, $13,107.74, bringing the total contract amount to $431,038.27. If the committee agrees, we recommend approval of the final payment for this contract.
Questions from committee members? Alder Kelly.
This is for the work that was just completed, correct?
Correct. This was actually a 2022 project that got started late in the year. So we suspended their contract, restarted them again in the spring. And they finished up, they finished up a while ago. I want to say mid-June, they were done with their work, and it just took this long to get their Racine Works and their final lien waivers and the paperwork to us to finish this up.
Okay. Have all the punch list items been completed, like grass repairs, et cetera?
Yeah, there's still, we have a warranty on it, but we've gotten a couple calls that the grass isn't growing quite yet, which always seems to happen. We kind of drag them back a year later and in the springtime usually and say, hey, we need to, throw some more topsoil and some seed down, and they're usually pretty receptive in doing that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Jarrett, second by Alder Kelly to approve item 0887-23. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion passes. Our final item this evening is 0883-23. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the city engineer, submitting a 3-party professional engineering services contract between the city of Racine, WisDOT, and Strand Associates, Inc. for state project ID 2703-00-06, Ohio Street, Washington Avenue, State Highway 20 to Graceland Boulevard. Staff recommend that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized and directed to enter into a 3-party professional engineering services agreement between the city of Racine, WisDOT, and Strand Associates, Inc. for state project ID 2703-00-06, Ohio Street, Washington Avenue to Graceland Boulevard in the not to exceed amount of $468,903.40, with the city share being $164,263.40, 35%, and the state share being $304,640, 65% capped amount. Fiscal note, funding is available in Ort Object 450-507-500-4003 in the 23 to 32 capital improvement plan. Mr. Mullender.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In an effort to not repeat all the numbers that were basically stated, this is just an agreement for Ohio Street design contract. And basically, we've been working on these. We had 4 road projects and Commissioner Rooney has 2 bridge projects all coming up. This is the first of them. 3-party contracts between us, a consultant, and the state. And these are, like I said, they're going to be coming at you probably one at a time for the next few months. If the committee so agrees, we recommend approving and the signatures of the mayor and the clerk and whoever else needs to sign these. And we'll move on from there.
Thank you, Mr. Mulliger. Questions from committee members? Kelly.
It's okay. I had a question. I'm not sure if I grabbed the right attachment, but it said currently 420 and then in 2026, 2.2 million. Can you break that down for me?
I don't see the currently 420. The total project design contract is 468,903.40. And basically the city share was $164,263.40. And then the state share is $304 or $304,640 even. They usually go 80-20, and then we have to pay for non-participating items, real estate, and a couple other things, but they didn't fully fund these. They were a little bit short. We spread that over 4 different projects. So it ends up being 65-35. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
That's okay. I might have had the wrong attachment, so trying to do this on mobile apps here. So, all right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
okay.
Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Alder Kelly, second by Alder Davis to approve item 0883-23. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. This concludes our agenda items for this afternoon. Thanks, everyone. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Oh, nice night,
Night.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Aye.